I do want to talk about Iowa. I do think this is going to be quite an interesting game. I think it's just a tale of two things: a really great defense going up against a really, really amazing offense. And at the end of the day, I just think that the metrics are showing that although Iowa does have a really good defense, the best defense is a good offense, and that's still part of this. You still need to score points, and I do think that when all's said and done, USC's ability to move the ball is going to be too much for even a great. The thing about Iowa is they're not going to have those headlining NFL guys, right? They send guys to the NFL, but they don't have the kind of rosters you're going to see at Ohio State, at Oregon, at Alabama, at Texas. You're not going to have those kind of defensive stars on the team. But what they do there is they're super well developed. And the coaching is absolutely top notch. And Phil Parker is just like, we want him really badly. And I wonder if a lot of those comments came that, remember they've been playing off on Twitter, and I'll hand over to you, Jamal. They've been a lot of talk about Ferentz talking some serious smack about, and it was clearly talking about Lincoln Riley and defense.
Sure.
It's obvious. You bring up Lonnie Lott, we know what you're talking about. But was that right around the same time also that we made a run at his defensive coordinator with him the entire time? So when people get mad at him for saying what he said, remember the context. I think it was kind of chicken shit what he said. I don't think coaches should talk that way. Bit flippant, bit disrespectful. But remember, USC just made a run at the guy who'd been their defensive coordinator for over 20 years. Sorry, Jamal. I went a little long there.
No, Tim. All great stuff. Look, this is a fascinating game because, Tim, I think you said it best. Iowa comes in 4th in total defense. They come in 7th in yards per play, which you and I both agree is kind of the more accurate metric of defensive and offensive excellence. And then you got, the juggernaut here offensively. What's fascinating, Tim, and I think this isn't being discussed enough. This is the first time that SC has an offense that's north of 300 yards passing and north of 200 yards rushing since 2005. Since the iconic 2005 team. And so a lot of really exciting things going on offensively. Iowa, this game is going to come down to who's going to impose whose will, right? Iowa's a team that's going to want to run the ball 40, 45, 50 times a game. They're going to run with Moulton. They're going to run with Gronowski. It's going to be a lot of zone read. It's going to be a lot of power eye. They're going to sort of change the formation from a run perspective, but they're going to be very committed to the run game. They're going to play field position. They're going to punt a lot. They're going to sort of try and back USC in long fields. They're going to play time of possession. They're not going to penalize themselves. And this is going to be sort of a grind it out, slog it out 4-quarter game if Iowa has their way. SC on the other side, if you can get up 2 scores in this game, it's ball game, flat out. And so it's Agreed. Just who is going to be able to impose whose style, because as good as Iowa is, they are a fundamentally flawed team. They are unbelievably incomplete. They're very good at the things that they do in terms of defense, particularly in the front 7. Got a really good offensive line. They run the ball. For Gronowski, think about this, Tim. They're sitting at 6-3 right now in 9 games. Gronowski hasn't thrown for 200 yards in a single game this season.
Yeah.
And only twice in the 9 games this season has he gone north of 150. Think about that, Tim.
Yeah.
7 of the 9 games, Gronowski has been south of 150 yards passing. So you're talking about an incredibly one-dimensional team here, incredibly incomplete team here. And I think the book on SC, Tim, as we realize this season, is you got to be multidimensional, right? You got to be able to have that run game. You got to be able to look pre-snap at the line, see where the backers are, what kind of box you have, and then you got to have some semblance of a passing game to keep those linebackers off balance and get those edges to lose gap contain. And that's the book on SC. The question is, does Iowa have enough of a passing game to be able to invoke that game plan? I don't believe so. And so I think this is going to be a situation where unless USC comes down a level, either with turnovers, with penalties, and with mental mistakes, then you're giving Iowa an opportunity. But if SC can play a relatively clean game, particularly at home, I have a hard time believing that at some point in this game, they're not going to have a 2-score lead, and the game is going to be played on SC's terms more than it's going to be played on Iowa's terms.
Yeah. And that's why USC offense. Everyone's kind of agreeing with you. SC gets that, but this is not an offense that's made. And when I say this is Hawkeye offense, it's not made to score in chunks. Speaking of chunks, explosive plays. This is a team that does not make explosive plays. The offense is death by 1,000 cuts. Right? They're gonna run the ball.
Yeah,
just a good old fashioned. Your good old fashioned Iowa. But what's the forward pass? Right? I mean, Kirk Ferentz could rip on USC's defense. Geez, oh Pete, man, when are you going to get an offense? I mean, let's be real. This is, you have the same defensive coordinators since the 90s. You have the same offense since the 1990s. And you had Brad Banks, who was just a guy that was a hell of an athlete that ascended you guys to that Orange Bowl. Wait, what happened to that Orange Bowl, Jamal? Do you remember?
Yeah, 38-17. Mr. Palmer put a nice little bow and a nice little gift wrap on that Heisman season. And Pete Carroll mania was officially beginning at that point.
And so they're not gonna beat you. Well, they haven't shown. Sorry, I should say this very clearly. They haven't shown they can beat you over the top. They haven't shown that they have like a King Miller that's gonna make one cut and take it to the house. They haven't shown that, as you talked about. Their style is just slug it, just hit you and hit you. Body blow, wear down your defense, slow down the game, take away possessions, because their defense is where it's at. Their defense is legitimate. And as I talked about in the very beginning, it's not because they have just, all Americans across the board. It's because they are very well coached.
Yes.
Very well disciplined. They do trust the system. They do their role very well. Something that we've been talking about on this channel for, I don't know, since the season started. Damn it. But if you do that consistently and you make the other team just continue to perform, that's where someone threw in there about the interceptions. I think it was Fight On about they can hurt you. They got to Indiana, they got to Oregon, and that's a crazy thing. But here's what I'm gonna say, because I want to talk about this. It's called the Kinnick effect, in my opinion, because Kinnick Stadium's where the Hawkeyes play their home games. It has that beautiful moment. It was at the end of the first quarter, I'm pretty sure, where they kind of turn and they have the Tours Hospital there. It's right adjoining the stadium, and everybody waves these kids that are fighting for their lives, guys. And it's beautiful to see.
It's beautiful. It's really one of the great traditions in all of college football, all of sports. It's really remarkable.
Anybody that has kids, you just feel that right away. You know what I mean? So it's just a great moment. But here's the thing: they are not the same team on the road. They gave Indiana, well, and more so the Ducks, all they could handle at Kinnick. And they are known for upsetting teams at home. They're not so well known about going on the road and being road victors and road bullies, because that just doesn't happen. That's just not in their DNA, really. So playing really great special teams, good defenses, are going to keep you in road games a lot, of course. A solid run game is going to keep you in road games, of course. But I just don't think they have what they need offensively. But the great equalizer is going to be USC was leading in the third quarter of that Notre Dame game. And I'm not saying that well, they don't have running backs like Love and Price. They don't have that.
Nobody does.
Well, you're right. Nobody does. But coming on the road, so USC was on the road in the rain. This would be home in the rain. But USC's receivers were dropping balls in the end zone, dropping balls on third down. I want to assume the equipment managers had them with gloves that are, all weather gloves that are going to, be able to test the weather, and the rain. But my goodness, USC, this is a good defense. No dropping balls. If they're dropping balls on third quarter, on third down, this game's gonna go well into the fourth quarter. So, USC's got to play tight on, no errors. Jayden Maiava is going to need to play a clean game, because these guys, if he makes a mistake, we've seen a lot of defenses drop balls. You are not going to see this defense. This is a very opportunistic defense. They will take the ball and change games, Jamal.
No question about it, Tim. And I think the great equalizer, to your point, is actually going to be the weather. And when you think about, I think, great points about Kinnick, Indiana, after that Penn State game, I mean, what a game that was last weekend. But outside of that, their only close game at Kinnick. And then, of course, the phenomenal game last week with Oregon. But I will say, as great as Iowa played, and they deserve all the credit in the world, that game against Oregon was tailor-made for Iowa. You know, to your point, Tim, it was at home. The weather was awful. I mean, it was rain and wind. The game was played in a phone booth. Oregon was down 2 or 3 of their top receivers and was pretty limited in terms of throwing the ball, so they had to run as well. Like, it was set up perfectly for this to be an Iowa type of game. And that's what we got, was an absolutely phenomenal game and a phenomenal ending there. So to me, Tim, to your point, Maiava's going to have to be clean, but, you know, that weather becomes a bit of an equalizer. And more than the rain, I'm concerned about wind or not. Because if it's not windy, I still feel really good about us being in the rain against this Iowa team. But if you throw rain with wind, now all of a sudden, you know, things become a lot more challenging in terms of passing the ball. You got to be more conservative. Things got to be a lot more underneath. Now the game is being played in this sort of 10-yard radius. It becomes sort of a phone booth game. And when you're in a phone booth game, anything can happen, and that's where Iowa wants to be. So I think the windiness and the windy conditions, if they're there, that is being accompanied by the rain, I think is going to be a significant factor in this particular game, Tim, to your point. However, if it's still sort of an open game and just rainy, you still got to like SC's chances here in this game, just given the limitations with Iowa offensively. Look, Iowa's had a great year, 6-3, but they haven't yet beat a ranked team. You know, they've beaten some teams here, even in terms of their conference wins, Penn State, Wisconsin, you know, teams that are kind of going in the wrong direction right now. So as great as they are, yet to have won a ranked game this season, as great as they've played in some of these tougher games, we talked about, you know, south of 150 yards passing per game. And as great as Gronowski has been running the ball, now you got to take sacks into account as well. He's only at 3.8 yards per carry, you know, and the sacks factor in there. So again, you know, this is a 3 yards in a cloud of dust team, Tim. You know, this is sort of 70s, 80s, 90s Big Ten football here. We're going to see Saturday afternoon at the one and only Coliseum.
There's going to be wind, 10 to 15 mile an hour gusts southeast.
So that becomes the equalizer more so than anything that USC does or not does. That becomes, to me, the great equalizer, because, Tim, that's what leads to drop passes. That's what leads to interceptions. That's what leads to fumbles. That's what leads to not, you know, sort of having a firm grip on the ball. So that's where this thing becomes a slog. And Maiava in particular, you know, a guy who really values a couple of things. One is, you know, his connection with Mekhi Lemon, and the other is kind of the timing of that seam route, right? And you know, some of our listeners were even speaking to it, whether it's with the tight end up the middle or, you know, having Lemon kind of find that soft spot in a zone on the back end. He loves the seam. And we talked about this, Tim, a couple of weeks ago against Notre Dame. The weather takes that seam pass away first and foremost because it impacts your visibility. And what's the other thing you need on these seam passes? You need touch. And in a rainy condition, windy condition, the touch is the first thing that goes away. You don't have the same feel to sort of drop a ball in between the backers and the safeties. And so that's going to be the thing to watch. How much does Lincoln Riley explore the passing game early and then realize, hey, he's either got something in terms of a more reduced playbook from a passing game standpoint, or he's got to really sort of grind this out with the run and some safe throws. I would expect this game, Tim, Jayden Maiava runs the ball a lot as well. You know, I think we're going to see a lot of zone read, a lot more keepers. We saw it against Nebraska, really for the first time in a consistent way all season. I think this is that game where Maiava, you know, perhaps 10-plus runs accompanied with, you know, what we got going on with King Miller and others.
That's the piece, right, that we've been wanting to see. And we don't need Jayden to be Kyler Murray. We don't need him to be a Caleb Williams. We just need those tough 3rd and 6, pick up the first down. You know, look, run. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna be that kind of game. I think Jayden can do it. I think that Jayden's ready to do that. So I agree with you. Look for that, because I think that the windows are gonna be tighter. We talked about discipline. I don't know how many people are gonna bring, but they're gonna sit back, I think, and try to make us pick them apart, take all the deep ball away, which the weather, as you said, and the wind is going to help them. So that's going to shrink the field even more, Jamal. So there's going to be tighter windows for him to throw into. And if they are going to drop 7, 8 guys, then you just got to run and make them pay for it. And I think that's what the game plan is going to be. I think they're going to drop, play some zone, and then USC is just going to have to pick apart their defense underneath. And I think you're right. I think it's required Jayden getting it done with his legs, and I think he's ready to do it. And I think that takes some of the load off of King Miller. We have the young guys. We don't know how 100% Brian Jackson is back yet, and so Jayden's going to have to take a little bit off his plate, make their defense, keep them honest. And if they come crashing down, then he's just got to keep the ball and pick up the yards. I don't know how happy I am to see running the speed option in the rain, but I mean, here's the other thing though. I've said this a couple of times now, and I think you've agreed with me. You're talking about Jayden Maiava, who should not be new to rain. He's from a beautiful state that rains for 20 minutes and is gorgeous the next minute, but it does rain quite a bit. So a guy with what size? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how big his hands are. I mean, he's got big hands, used to throwing a wet football, should not be a problem. And the great part about this issue, guys, is they've got, they've had a couple of games now where they've had to play in the rain. So it's not like it's brand new to them. It's not like these kids didn't play in the rain in high school, right? Not all of them from Southern California. So just realize that they're not going to melt as soon as it gets wet. I agree with you. The bigger factor is going to be the wind, because the wind is the biggest enemy to a passing game.
No question, Tim. And I think stylistically, when we look at this, Iowa's a better version, significantly better version of Northwestern, right? And they run it with more power, and they're more committed to it. And so, look, if we go back and look at the Northwestern game, obviously we ran away with it there, in the last quarter and a half. But when it was sitting there at 14-14, and obviously it's even Steven, right? You had sort of another illegal man downfield, took away the touchdown to Hines, but then really fluke play on the other end with the Maiava pick, and how that guy didn't fall on it in the end zone is sort of remarkable to me. But even Steven, touchdown off the board on either team. I thought where the game was lost in that game, Tim, if you recall, early in the third quarter, it's 21-14, Northwestern first drive in the second half. They abandoned the run game. They got to midfield, and then on first, second down, they start throwing the ball. And, they abandoned the run game. It was some very puzzling play calling by Northwestern early in the third quarter of that game. Obviously, they're not consistent enough from a passing game standpoint to be able to execute. Had to punt it away, and SC gets rolling, 2-possession game, and then it's a whole different ball game. Iowa is not going to be Northwestern in that regard, where they're going to stick with it. They believe very deeply in their philosophy. They're sort of like Michigan in a lot of ways, where they're going to stick with it, where they find sort of quote-unquote offensive ingenuity isn't in run-pass balance, but it's in what are the different looks that I can show to run the ball. I mean, there's going to be moments where they're going to go 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. There's going to be moments where they go fullback. There's going to be moments where they go zone read. There's going to be moments where they go quarterback draw. There's going to be moments where they go, zone stretch play. And so they're going to just throw a lot at SC, but it's going to be all in the name of running the ball. And they just want to sort of stay ahead of the chains. For Iowa, a gain of 3.5 is a great play, because they know that if they do that 3 times, they're going to get a first down and keep going. So success is also defined very differently from an offensive perspective with Iowa. They want to grind this game out. They want to take it into the fourth quarter. And I think Lincoln Riley's willingness to grind with Iowa, I think, is going to be sort of a fascinating subplot here, Tim, because if you notice, historically in the Riley tenure and even this year, when the going gets tough a little bit, particularly in the second half, he dips into his trick play bag, for better or for worse. And I think that in this particular game would be a recipe for disaster given the conditions. And so I'm looking for Lincoln Riley to also kind of stand in the center of the ring and box and say, look, okay, you guys want to grind? We can grind too.
Yeah.
We're not going to bail and cave and try and change the rhythm of the game with a trick play, because I think Iowa's going to want to bait SC into doing that given the conditions and kind of take their chances, similar to what we saw against Notre Dame.
And that is right. That's what a lot of people, well, no, nationally people are starting to, I'm actually hearing, one of my guilty pleasures is the Cover 3 podcast. I'll keep plugging them, even though they crap on USC all the time. Hey, look, they're good commentary. All right. And some of and a lot of things they say about USC is true. For some reason, I don't know. I'm not gonna say his name, but one of them, who's an Illinois alum, always talks about the fact that it's like the traffic in LA. It takes an hour and a half to get anywhere. I don't know where this stuff comes from, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe some parts. If you're on the 405 going north by Westwood, yeah, it probably gets pretty gnarly up there, right? Sometimes in Hollywood, pretty bad over there. But you're on the 405 coming home to Orange County, man. You can get home pretty quick. So I don't know what you're saying. But the thing I like is people are catching on about the fact that USC is running the ball.
Yeah,
we will crush you through the air, but if we need to, we can be versatile. We are not one-dimensional. And a big part of that is a big thanks to Coach Hansen and this offensive line and shuffling it around. And no matter who we put at guard, who we put at left tackle, it seems like that they are a force. I would have loved to have seen Elijah Page, in that Notre Dame game. I mean, ifs and buts. I know, I get it, but I mean that's a big one. Difference.
Huge one.
I don't think people really realize how much that line being kind of chopped at the knees when you lose your left tackle. When you lose an NFL left tackle, how much different it makes your team just on a play-to-play basis. So USC is getting back to your point. Yeah, they're going to run the ball. I think SC is going to run the ball. I think you said it. I think that the rain, the weather, and their defense is going to force USC to run. That's got to be everyone's game plan. Parker's going to be doing that. You just know that's what the plan's going to be. And I want to see him try, because this, like you said, the USC is for the first time in how many years has it been? Where they're 300 yards through the air, averaging 300 through the air. 05. And 200 on the ground. And I mean, let's face it, how often? There's only been a handful of times that USC's averaged 200 on the ground. We average 300 through the air all the time. Where we struggle is getting the 200 yards on the ground, which,
correct.
If you talk back to my dad's day, if you talk about, if you go back to
gimme,
right, with McKay and the Robinson years, shoot, you're talking about they're running. You had Marcus Allen set that record for most consecutive 200-yard rushing games. You had Charles White, who was like, just give me, before there was Keyshawn Johnson, just give me a damn ball. I'm going to run it 35 times. There was that kind of offense. But USC, it's kind of gone away, starting with maybe Kiffin, when Kiffin got here, and then Sark and with Helton, and a little bit with Lincoln. We haven't been known for that massive running game. Even we have a guy like, Rojo running back there going wild. We had some great, by the way, and during that stretch, we've had some amazing running backs. It's just they never committed to run. Lincoln Riley is committing to run. Everyone was calling for it, and he's been doing it. So this would be a good. This is going to be something, Jamal. This is going to be USC, because the Big Ten really is proud of their run defenses and how that and they've been always cracked on USC and softness in the West Coast. What a great opportunity it is for USC to prove that they can run this ball on this Iowa defense.
No question, Tim. And if you think about kind of the national conversation, and I know you and I don't really pay too much attention to that because they're too far removed from the day-to-day realities of the team. This is an attitude game, and everyone's saying, look, the big question with SC in the Riley era is we get it. We know that you can put points up. This is a Lincoln Riley team, but can you get the stops when you need to, and can you grind it out when you need to? And this is a perfect litmus test against your classic, traditional Big Ten style of play, classic, traditional Big Ten weather kind of game. This is a statement opportunity for Lincoln Riley and company come 12:30 on Saturday, and we just can't wait for it. And I think it's set up very nicely for SC to come out on top. I think it's going to be a slog, but I just love the Trojans' chances in this game, and I think it's going to be so much of it's going to come down to the how, right, Tim? I mean, it's going to be how they play and just stylistically, because I think we want to be in a position where we go strength on strength. I think I would sort of walk away with something lost if we didn't pound the ball, and really just sort of emphatically let the rest of the conference and the rest of the country know, look, we can run the ball with anybody in the country and with the best of them. And so I think it's a statement game. I think it's an attitude game. I'm stunned. I saw it with one of the viewers. I am too, that this isn't sort of the CBS game of the week. We have, two teams that combined 6 and 12 playing each other on CBS at 12:30. And so this game has had to be moved to the Big Ten Network. I mean, I'm stunned by it, but nevertheless, this is going to be a big game for SC and a statement opportunity, certainly. I'm not ready to sort of call it a game at the level of a Notre Dame game, at the level of what next week would be at Oregon. To me, those are like the big games. This is more of a medium-ish, high medium kind of game. But really, this, in my mind, would be USC's best win of the season if we were able to prevail on Saturday.
It's a statement time.
Yeah.
Right. And we've been saying, we knew it since Notre Dame, that USC is now in playoff mode. You win or you go home. You win or you go home. You're not, 3 losses is not going to get you into the playoffs.
Nope.
This USC fan base is not going to care about anything short of the playoffs. I don't think this team or this coaching staff expects anything less than the playoffs. So this is one more chance to stylistically change who you are, or better yet, show that you are what you are. You're a versatile offense. We can beat you. We can beat you through the air. We will crush you through the air. You want to take away the pass, and we're going to pound you on the ground. And we can do it both ways. I'd feel better if we had if we had Eli back and Waymo back. That would be nice, along with the pieces we have. That would be great. But I still think that they could absolutely get this done with the offensive line, and like you talked about with Maiava taking over and moving the ball himself.